This is Trump's genocide now. Notes from the edge of the narrative matrix. This is Trump's genocide. Trump is just as culpable for what happens in Gaza as Netanyahu, just as guilty as Biden was during the last administration. Trump signed off on the reignition of the Gaza holocaust. He spent weeks sabotaging the ceasefire and then gave the thumbs up to the resumption of the genocide. He did this while bombing Yemen and threatening war with Iran for Israel. I don't know why Trump has done these things. Maybe it's all for the Adelson cash. Maybe Epstein recorded him doing something unsavory with a minor during their long association and gave it to Israeli intelligence for blackmail purposes. Maybe he owed somebody a favor for bailing him out of his business failures in the past. Maybe he's just a psychopath who enjoys murdering children. I don't know, and it doesn't really matter. What matters is that he did it, and he is responsible for his actions. Trump supporters will justify literally anything their president does, using whatever excuses they need to, but they are only revealing how completely empty and unprincipled their political faction is. They are unthinking worshippers of power who go along with whatever the president tells them to. By continuing to support Trump, even as he continues Biden's legacy of mass murder in the Middle East, they are proving themselves to be mindless stormtroopers for the empire in full view of the entire world. You can still support Trump if you hate immigrants and LGBTQ people and want lower taxes for the obscenely wealthy. But there is no legitimate reason to support him on anti-war or anti-establishment grounds. He's just another evil Republican mass murderer president. Republicans in 2002. We need more authoritarianism and more wars in the Middle East. Anyone who disagrees is a terrorist supporter. Republicans in 2025. We need more authoritarianism and more wars in the Middle East. Anyone who disagrees is a terrorist supporter and an anti-Semite. By the way, has anyone checked on the Western Zionist Jews? How are their feelings feeling today? Are they feeling nice feelings or bad feelings? Are their feelings feeling safe or unsafe? We need wall-to-wall news coverage of this supremely urgent issue. No time to cover any other story. I write so much about the fake anti-Semitism crisis, not only because it's being used to destroy civil rights throughout the Western world, but because it's one of the most dark and disturbing things I've ever witnessed. It's been so intensely creepy watching all of Western society mobilize around a complete and utter fiction in order to stomp out all criticism of a foreign state. It's about as dystopian a thing as you can possibly imagine. All these pundits and politicians pretending to believe that Jewish safety is seriously being threatened by an epidemic of anti-Semitism which must be aggressively silenced by any means necessary. All to shut down opposition to the worst inclinations of a genocidal apartheid state and the complicity of our own Western governments with its crimes. And we're all expected to treat this scam seriously. Anyone who says the emperor has no clothes and calls this mass deception what it is gets tarred with the anti-Semite label and treated as further evidence that we're all a hair's breadth from seeing Jews rounded up onto trains again if we don't all hurry up and shut down anti-genocide protests on university campuses. They're not just acting out a fraudulent melodrama staged to rob us of our rights. They're demanding that we participate in it by pretending it's not what it plainly is. It's not just tyranny. It's tyranny that orders people to clap along with it. It's such a disgusting, evil thing to do to people. Such psychologically dominating abusive behavior. The more you look at it, the creepier it gets. The anti-imperialist left is what MAGA and right-wing populism pretend to be. We actually oppose the empire's warmongering. Not only when the Democrats are in power. We actually want to defeat the deep state. We don't applaud billionaire Pentagon contractors like Elon Musk taking power. We actually oppose the establishment order, because the establishment order is capitalist. We actually stand up to the powerful. We don't offload half the blame onto immigrants and marginalized groups. The anti-imperialist left is also what liberals pretend to be. We actually support the working class. We actually stand up for the little guy. We actually want justice and inequality. We actually support civil rights. We actually oppose tyranny. Everything the human heart longs for lies in the death of capitalism, militarism, and empire. And yet both of the dominant Western political factions of our day support continuing all of these things. This is because Westerners spend their entire lives marinating in power-serving propaganda which herds them into these two mainstream political factions to ensure that they will pose no meaningful challenges to our rulers. All political energy is funded into movements and parties which are set up to maintain the status quo while pretending to support the people, with the illusion of political freedom sustained by a false two-party dichotomy in which both factions serve the same ruling power structure. Of course, what mainstream liberalism and right-wing populism have to offer that anti-imperialist socialism does not is the ability to win major elections with successful candidates. This is because generations of imperial psyops have gone into stomping out the anti-imperialist left in the Western world, and because only candidates which uphold the status quo are ever allowed to get close to winning an election. This doesn't mean mainstream liberalism or right-wing quote-unquote populism are the answer. It just means our prison warden isn't going to hand us the keys to the exit door. At some point, we are going to have to rise up and use the power of our numbers to force the urgently needed changes we long to see in our world. Everything in our society is set up to prevent this from ever happening. That's all the two mainstream political factions are designed to do. That's why they both have phony populist elements within them which purport to be leading a brave revolutionary charge against the establishment while herding everyone into support for the two status quo political parties. And that's why the anti-imperialist left is everything they pretend to be.